Unit 1 review, problem 7, and we're looking at part A. Part A, it says the prime factorization of 20. So they give us the string, it's 2 times 2 times 5. The prime factorization of 44 is 2 times 2 times 11. So it says use this information to find the greatest common factor of 20 and 44. So if they give us the strings to find the greatest common factor, you just use what they've given you. So, and we make a common string. So if we have a 2, this is for 20, 2 times 2 times 5. And for 44, we have 2 times 2 times 11. We look for the ones that they have in common, right? Because when we find greatest common factor, we have to make a string of the common factors only. So what do they have in common? They share a 2. They share another 2. And that is it. So they only share a 2 and a 2. Once again, you've got the strings and you can see what they share. They share a 2, so we put 1 2 and another 2. So the greatest common factor of those two numbers is 4. The greatest common factor of 20 and 44 is 4. All right, so the next thing says use the information now to help you find the least common multiple. Well, least common multiple, we can use those factor strings again. I'm just going to rewrite them. So for 20, it was 2 times 2 times 5. And for 44, it was 2 times 2 times 11. Now this string's a little different. We need to find what they have in common and all of the remaining factors. So they all have to be included. They all have to be included. So what we have here is a 2. They share a 2. They share another 2. And we cannot leave out the 5, and we cannot leave out the 11. So those have to be added in. So 5 and 11. And when we multiply those together, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. And then 20 times 11 is 220. So our least common multiple is 220. All right, let's do C. It says find the prime factorization of 32 and 64. So for 32 and 64, let's do the prime factorization. I'm going to go pretty quick. 32. Oh man, I'm having a hard time writing neat here. All right, I've got all the primes. I'm going to make a nice, neat string, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So if we do that, make sure 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 16 times 2 is 32. All right, so now let's do our 64. So 8 times 8, 2 times 4, 2 times 4 gives me 8. And we have a string here of 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Let me make sure I've got them all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so the greatest common factor is what do they share? What do they share? Well, they share all 5 of these 2's and all 5 of these 2's. So the greatest common factor is 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 16 times 2 is 32. So the greatest common factor is 32. Now, for the least common multiple, I'm going to move this up a little bit here. The least common multiple, we have to put all of the ones they share plus any that also need to be included. So I'm going to draw a new line. What do they share? They share all of these. They share 5 2's. Those are the 5 2's we use from the greatest common factor. So we say 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. There's 5 of them. But the rule says we cannot leave any of the factors out, so we have to include this 2 right here, times 2. So the least common multiple is 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 16 times 2 is 32, 32 times 2 is 64, 64.